Okay, well, welcome to Counseling Non-Traditional Family or Families. And my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm an adjunct professor here. I'm not on staff, I just fill in and everything. This course number is 347. Yep, 347. So hopefully you guys are all in the right place because your names are right here on the roll and everything. Before we begin, let me start with a word of prayer, okay? Lord, we thank you for the day you've given to us, and we thank you for the beauty of this day and for this opportunity to gather here in this place of higher education, to learn and to study and to increase our ability to serve you in the fields that you have called us to. And Father, I just pray that you'll bless our time here this evening and through the course of this 8 weeks, that we would apply ourselves to learn and to know and to understand not only the complexities of the family, but the complexities of our society and world. Help us to become effective servants and ministers for you, being a light into a dark community and into a dark world. May you receive all the glory and the praise, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so Jesse, you were telling me about you a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is your last semester here, and you're getting ready to go into a children's training program, and hopefully graduate in December.
Yeah.
Your desire is to go to Japan
Teach the
and
Bible.
work with the children,
Yep.
teaching the Bible and things. Good. Wait, Abigail. No. Taylor. Taylor, tell me about yourself.
I'm a junior. I'm on the basketball team, and that's pretty much my life.
So, season's wrapping up now?
It just ended a couple weeks ago.
Oh, so how'd you guys do?
Wish
We
we
did
could have
okay.
done better, but we
Yeah.
did pretty good this season.
Okay.
It's one of our better ones.
Okay, awesome. So what do you plan on doing?
I honestly have no idea. I'm kind of working that out right now.
Okay.
I wish I had a better answer, but
That's
I
all
don't.
right. That's fine. That's fine. Awesome. What do you hope to achieve from this class?
This is kind of like deep for an introduction, but like I saw in here like it's dealing with grief and stuff, and that's kind of like been my life for the past like 4 years now. So I just thought that would be an interesting like I don't know class to take and how to deal with that type of stuff. And a non-traditional family, I just found it interesting.
Okay. Now you said grief has been a part of your life for 4 years.
My grandpa died 4 years ago, and he was like my best friend. So,
Gotcha. I understand. So hopefully when we cover some of that, that'll be very beneficial for you. Awesome. Okay. Gigi from Korea,
Yeah.
and I take it South Korea.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Tell me about yourself.
I'm senior in biblical counseling major. I want to help international people in United States because I can empathize with them. So and then study more in United States.
Good.
Yeah,
Good. Awesome. Now this is Abigail.
Yes.
Sorry.
Scary look for brunettes.
Are you on the basketball team?
No, I'm not athletic. I'm a junior also, and I don't really know exactly what I want to do. I just know I used to want to be a dietitian, and then I took an intro to counseling course and realized this would be more beneficial because I'm always with people, and I want to know how to deal with them correctly and like interact with them in a way that's helpful for them and glorifying. So
Good. Good. Do either one of you have a desire to go for licensure?
I think if I settle down into a state, I might actually want to.
Where are you from?
I grew up in the Philippines.
Okay.
so I don't really have a home.
Gotcha. So wherever state you wanna settle down in, you're looking to possibly do
yeah.
that there.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Licensure? It's just basically ministry type of stuff?
Mhm.
Still undecided? Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, so let me kind of go through the syllabus. I know that some of this might have created several questions, possibly a little bit of what's he talking about? What are we supposed to do? I don't understand this type of thing. Okay? Oh, and by the way, my desire is to help you guys become better at this and everything. I will do everything I can to help you achieve your goal. Okay? So in other words, passing my course might not be too much of a challenge, but it will require some work. Make sense? Okay. So, already mentioned it's counseling non-traditional family. We'll get into that a little bit, that terminology, hopefully here this evening. It meets every Tuesday for 8 weeks till the end of this cycle, which is going to be in May. On the second page is the list of the things, your assignments and stuff. The journal summaries. Now, may I borrow your
Yes.
book? Okay. When Dr. Smith handed me the syllabus and everything for this class, this is the book he gave me. But this is the book that was in the syllabus. Okay. So, if you have this one, I'm okay with you doing your journal writings on that one. But if you have this one, go ahead and use this one. Okay? Now what the journal writings are going to consist of is basically, now this one has 7 questions, this one has 9 questions. When I wrote up this journal assignments and everything, I did it off of this one. Okay, so on this one right here, each chapter covers a question. So you're only going to do 7. All right, so when it says question 1, 2, and 3, and etc., it's the chapter. Okay, so each chapter is going to be your journal. All right? So if you have this book, please use it. If you have this one, or if you have both of them, I'm up in the air. I'm not very particular about that, but since this is a non-traditional family course, if we could stay with the second marriage one, that's fine. This one's a good book. This was the first one that they wrote. And this one, let's see, 1995. First written in 1995. So, whichever one, but I prefer that one, but if you have this one, that's fine. So the journal writings are on a chapter, okay? But with that one having 9, all you have to do is 7, because basically that's the only time period that we have here, okay? So those are worth 10 points apiece. The minimum page requirement for that is 3 pages. If you get down to, and you're working through it, and you've done everything you can, and you're just like that far or something away from the bottom of the 3rd page, don't worry about it, okay? Don't sweat it. Go ahead and submit it. One of the things I want you guys to be mindful of, and the journal writings are just based upon college level writing, okay? So I'm looking for punctuation, for correct spelling and things of that nature. I'm not looking for it to be in APA format. I would like the 12-point Times New Roman, okay? So that's really the only requirement for that.
What if we need to cite anything, like what if we quote something from our chapter? Would you want APA citations?
You can do that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically with that, just put the page number,
Okay.
okay? Just the page number's fine.
Okay, you don't need author and date, just the
No.
page number. Okay.
Just give me, because I know what you're
You know
writing
what-
from
okay.
anyway
Gotcha.
and stuff, but good question.
Thank you.
So, if you're making a citation from the text itself, just list the page. And don't worry about anything else as far as, because put the title of the book at the very top of the page, like in the header, and title of the book, Journal 1, and then go from there, okay? Let me shut this down here real quick. All right, so any questions on the journals? You guys have been used to doing those basically throughout your college career here anyway, correct? All right, so no questions on that? Okay. All right, the midterm exam is just going to consist of probably 50 questions. The final exam will include the midterm as well, and probably be a total of 100 questions and things. Might mix it up a little bit, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Okay, the MFT model, Marriage and Family Therapy, is what that stands for. Marriage and Family Therapy. So, then the literature review, it talks about, well, let me just get to that here. I'm going to flip over to that, the literature review. Literature review is find one literature article from a peer-reviewed professional journal. Are you familiar with those? Mm-hmm. Okay, so a peer-reviewed professional journal, such as Journal of Marital and Family Therapy or Marriage and Family, a Christian journal, regarding one of the classic schools of family therapy. We'll discuss a little bit of that here this evening too. That addresses specific issues within a family therapy process. For example, special population, a specific presenting issue, etc. An example would be an article treating infidelity, family therapy addressing addictions within the family. Those two topics right there, the more that you start working within the counseling field, you will find that those are pretty prominent, but they're not the dominant. They're just very prominent within a counseling field, infidelity and addictions. Okay, so if you find, when you find the article, the journal itself, and it doesn't have any one of those, but it has something else that interests you that's going to cover something that's specific in family therapy, go ahead and use that, okay? So what, you can get some of these through the library itself, or ask the library to order these for you. Talk to me if you have a problem with it, and I'll see if I can get one for you. Okay? So what you're going to do is, it's a one-page review. You're going to summarize the findings, identify key clinical variables being examined. Because these are articles, a lot of them are based upon research and things. So what the researchers are doing is they've identified a specific aspect that they're researching into, so all that stuff will be in the article. I'm not looking for any mathematical equations. Okay, I'm not looking for that. So provide me with your overall impression of the article's topic and the application of the theory to that particular topic. So the research itself might have an application to it on what they've researched, how it can be applied in a clinical setting. Any questions? Okay. That in of itself, the journal, the literature review is going to, let's see. Okay. I didn't put down a due date for that, did I?
For the literature review?
Literature review?
It should be set on Canvas, it's April 28th.
Okay, good.
Canvas.
Okay. All right, I don't have it in your syllabus, thank you. Okay, so April 28th is when that's due. Okay? All right, any questions on the literature review? No? Okay, genogram. Who's ever heard of a genogram?
Is that just like a family tree?
It's like a family tree.
Yeah.
Okay, but it traces your family tree for 3 generations. Okay? So, what it will look like is basically something like this. Alright?
So is that 5 or 4?
It's grandparents.
Grandparents, parents, and you. Okay?
And then our children, if we have
If you
kids.
I'm going to say that you guys don't have children.
I'm not even one step there.
Okay, so you will trace it for 3 generations, your grandparents on both sides, okay? Your parents, your siblings, and you. Alright, now, part of it is the diagrams that go with it. Okay, with the diagrams that go with it. So what this is going to do is you construct this. Now, I pulled this off a line. I just typed in Genogram. It had several different things. I just I just printed it. Okay? Feel free to do the same thing. Okay? Feel free to download or feel free to do the diagram part of it. The symbol part of it, I'm sorry, and also the diagram part of it. Feel free to do that. Or, if you draw it, just make it nice and neat. But I would suggest that you print it off of line. So what you're going to do is you're going to construct a genogram of your own family, tracing your background and your family patterns at least 3 generations. Since you guys don't have children, if you had children, it'd be 4, okay? Interview family members with whom you feel comfortable about the details of your family's developmental history and functioning. Do you guys feel okay with interviewing a family member, your parents or your grandparents? Okay.
Let's see.
I'm sorry?
I think the only question I have is my grandma just recently passed away in my dad's family, so what if there's tension on that side?
Okay.
'Cause
One of the things you might do, and your grandfather just passed away 4 years ago and stuff, so is there any tension between family members? Okay.
not
just
necessarily
a heartache.
tension, just grieving. Yeah, just grieving. And I don't
Okay,
know.
so what you will do, now would you say that as far as the tension, that it's, that it's just tension?
It's not necessarily tension, we're just grieving, and my dad has been so busy taking care of her that he doesn't have time to, grieve for
Gotcha.
death.
Okay, so,
And maybe I could probably ask my mom about it because
Mhm.
she knows her as much as Dad did.
okay, so, for example, you could use a line like this, where it says conflictual, but instead of doing that, just write underneath it, tension.
Okay.
Okay, you see that and stuff. Okay, so
Okay.
just write under that there's tension between the family, between those two, or between others.
Okay.
Okay, like for instance, your father's mother.
Yes.
Okay, so now this is your father's mom and dad. Okay, is your grandfather alive?
No, he passed away a long time ago.
Do you know how old?
How old he was?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was like 1990, I think.
Okay, but how old was he?
How old was he? Oh, not that old. I think it was like 50 or so. I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's just hypothetically, okay?
Yeah.
So he passed away at age 50,
Mhm.
okay? Now, they had been married their whole life, okay, no problem,
Yeah.
okay. Your grandmother passed away when?
It was like, just, I had it on the top of my head. I put it.
She was much older though.
Yes, like she was a long time widow. Like,
Okay.
For over 20 years, I think.
So would it be safe to say 80?
Yeah.
So hypothetically, she passed away at the age of 80,
Yeah.
okay? So
It's 86 around.
from here, now I'm just going to fill in, okay, this is just hypothetical. Let's just say your dad was the second child born and there was an older sister, okay, and maybe a younger sister and a younger brother,
Mhm.
okay? So what you have, now the tension existed between who? Can I just go ahead and,
Sure, you can
Okay.
use that example.
okay, so
say-
kinda like that,
Yeah.
okay? So there, and then you just write tension right there,
Okay.
okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're going to do.
That's
And by the way, anytime as you're doing this through the course of this cycle, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay? The purpose of this is for you to get a greater understanding of the dynamics of your family. Okay? So what you're going to do is do that. You're going to, through the symbols and stuff. Okay, down here it says, with whom did you communicate for this assignment? So you're just gonna write out, you're just gonna say, I communicated with my father, with my mother, or with my parents or something. What were your reactions to your conversation with these individuals? What themes stand out for you in examining this genogram? Is there anything within your family that may have popped out during the course of this assignment that you didn't know was there? Or maybe you knew it was there, but yet it wasn't quite as prominent through the course of the conversation. It became more prominent to you. What surprises you the most? How does this change your view of your family? What do you think is the most valuable about using a genogram with a family that you see in therapy? So as you're doing this, you're going to learn a little bit about your family, but I want you to see how that this might be beneficial in a counseling setting. All right? And then, what do you think some of the limitations of using a genogram might be? Is there limitations to this type of exercise? When you work with families, you're going to find a plethora of issues. And some of them are going to be repeated, but as they're repeated, you're going to find that it's unique. Like for instance, let's just say that we have couple A right here, and whatever the issue is with couple A, let's say that you start to see couple B, and you find out that they are experiencing the same type of family discord or family problem. But keep this in mind as you're working with these two different couples, is the fact that they're two different couples. They might be presenting the same issue, let's say infidelity. Okay? They might be presenting, and let's say that the male partner in both of them has been unfaithful. But what you're going to find is the difference between both of these couples, even though the presenting issue is infidelity. Okay? Like for instance, let's say that the wife in couple A was negligent, distant. And the wife in couple B came from an abusive background. Infidelity is the presenting issue, but now that you've presented that, you've got two different total scenarios that you're dealing with and stuff. So how is a genogram going to help you work with these different couples? What are the limitations that might be there as well when you're working with them? Okay? Any questions so far?
When we're interviewing, what other kind of things are we looking to ask our parents?
What are you looking to ask them as far as the questions?
Or whoever we're asking, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Now your parents, let's just say, is it okay if we use your, okay. Your parents are still together, they've been married for how long now?
Yeah.
So, okay, their parents were married their whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, both sets.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know if their relationships were good? Was there any issues?
From
Was
my
there like any-
grandparents? No.
Was there any type of addictions?
Okay.
Was there alcohol? Was there tobacco? Was there any type of infidelity? It might be tough asking questions like that to your parents
Mm-hmm.
and things. But what you're trying to look for is there any type of pattern?
Okay.
One of the things you might find, and you might find is that within families, patterns seem to repeat. Okay? You've heard that those who are bullied, those who are bullies have been bullied, and bullied people become bullies. A lot of that is kind of like a pattern. And keep in mind too that in a lot of families where addiction is a problem, the propensity for it to continue to into the next generation is very high and stuff. So you're looking for different things of that nature. If everything is fine, then that's awesome. If you have nothing really to report, when I did this on my family, I wrote it all out and handed it in and told the professor, I said, I'm sorry, I'm one of those come from a traditional family type of thing. Both grandparents stayed married the whole life. My parents still married, all this other kind of stuff. And if that's the case, then you're blessed. That's fortunate and things. That's awesome. Is the relationship between you and your parents, how is it? Is it functional? Is it estranged? Is there tension? Is there anything conflictual there? So you're looking at the relationships between individuals as well.
Okay.
Okay? Good question though. Okay? So you get the rubric for the genogram as far as the grade points there, the drawing of it, the reflection of it, and the evaluation of it. Okay? The marriage and family model presentation. Okay, the MFT model. All right, what you see right here are 17 names of some of the prominent people within marriage and family therapy. These are some of the more prominent names within marriage and family. So, you get to pick one.
Yay.
Okay? You get to pick one of these names, and what you're going to do, this says that it will be assigned, but I'm not going to assign it. I'm going to let you pick it. What I want you to do, and granted, it says PowerPoint presentation of it, okay? I'm not looking for 30 slides in a PowerPoint presentation, all right? 5 to 10 slides, that's fine, okay? That's fine. What you're going to do is pick one of these individuals right here, give a little bit of a background, historical background on one of these individuals that you pick, okay? So let's say that you pick Murray Bowen, all right? So you're going to give a little bit of historical background on him. You're also going to present his theoretical assumptions, okay? View of the family and individuals, view on change, such as how issues in functioning develop and goals of therapy. The role of the therapist, like what's his view of the role of the therapist within family therapy, all right? Assessment and key techniques and interventions, okay? So just either one of these as you pick them and stuff, and the more that you start to continue to study into psychology, are you familiar with any of these names? No? You are?
No.
No? None of them?
Yeah.
Okay. This one right here, pretty prominent. He's still alive. Okay, he's still alive today. This one right here, very prominent too. She's very prominent. He's prominent, he's prominent, he's very prominent. So is he, and so is he. Okay, they're prominent individuals, they're key figures in the development of marriage and family therapy. So, you're going to develop the PowerPoint presentation. I'm not concerned about the slides, at least 5, no more than 10. If that works for you, that's fine with me. I'm the one who's going to be looking at these, but I'm also going to ask you guys to present this to class. Okay? So when you flip back on the course schedule here, you will see that the last 2 of the last 3 days, it says MFT presentations. That's the time period that you guys are going to be given to give these presentations. All right? Okay. Also, it says 10 multiple choice questions or true false, 5 to 10. 5 to 10, okay? What you're doing is you're making up a quiz, all right? It says 1 for extra credit and things, but you're making up a quiz. You guys aren't going to give these out. It's just you're going to write them, okay? All right, now here's the fun part. I hope it's fun. Okay, you guys are writing part of your final. Okay? Because the questions that you put on here, I'm going to take and put in your final.
So we better know the answers.
I was gonna say.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't.
So 5 to 10 questions. And remember, I said that the midterm is going to be on the final too. Okay, so you guys are going to create the other part of the final.
Oh.
Okay? Alright? So that's the purpose for the quiz questions.
You make the questions really easy.
I know. I was thinking. There's like ones.
Okay, now it says the role play part there, but the role play is your guys' presentation of it, okay? It's your presentation of it. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand up here, we'll use the PowerPoint and everything, and you'll present everything to one another, okay? Any questions on that? Does it sound like fun? Okay, you're going to find that once you get into this, that there's more to this than what you thought, okay? There's more to it than what you thought. There's a lot involved in marriage and family counseling. Like, for instance, any questions on the syllabus? Okay, don't hesitate. Apologize for sometimes a delay in my response to the emails. I do have a practice I'm working in and stuff like that, so I will get to them as soon as possible. I will be flexible as much as I can because I know that you guys have a lot going on in your life. I too at one time was sitting where you're sitting, and it's a challenge. Okay, one of the things to keep in mind about marriage and family counseling, it's really, really unique, okay, in several ways, all right? And you'll find that in some of these right here, especially with this individual right there, okay? You will find that it's very unique in the fact that most counseling, when you think about counseling, most of the time you're dealing with one-on-one, most of the time. But when you start with family counseling and family therapy, it's not one-on-one anymore, okay? You have both spouses, and there might be children involved, okay? So now all of a sudden you've expanded the complexity of counseling. If an individual comes into your office for counseling, they're coming in with a presenting issue, all right? So let's say that the presenting issue is depression, all right? I come in and I sit down as I look, doc, you know, I'm really struggling, or let me do it this way. You receive a phone call from a person that is a client of yours, but all of a sudden they're hyperventilating on the phone, they're crying, and their voice is shaking. You know, I gotta see you, I gotta see you. Well, what's the first thing that you would do?
You connect with them?
Connect with them. How are you gonna connect with them?
Oh, wow. I guess going back to the intro to biblical counseling class, you asked them questions about their family and, you know.
Okay. Okay.
Get to know them personally and.
Okay, now hang on a second.
Yes.
This is already a client.
Okay.
Okay, so that's already there.
Okay.
If they're freaking out on the phone, I'm gonna ask them if they're in danger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, all right. So, how are you going to ask that question?
Are you okay?
Good.
Or is everything okay?
Okay, all right. No becomes the answer.
What's going on?
Okay, good, good, good. I can't breathe. I'm scared.
I would ask them to take deep breaths with me over the phone.
Very good, very good. Excellent. What you're going to do is you're going to first to try and stabilize them. Okay, very important. Stabilize them. Because they're on the verge of a panic attack. They're on the verge of hyperventilating. They're on the verge of everything really just going out of control. Right? So you on the phone all of a sudden have to start talking to them to bring about stabilization. Okay, keep that in mind. It's very important when you're dealing with people. Because like I said, it might be the same presenting issue, but the person might be dealing with it totally different, right? So, bring about stabilization. Breathing, very good. Breathing. Call them by name, okay? Listen, and what you're going to do is you're going to change your tone of voice, okay? You're going to change it to a softer tone, okay? So, Abigail, listen to me, okay? Listen carefully. Try and take a deep breath. Okay, follow with me. Okay, just do what I do. All right. Did you hear that? Yes. And then it's like, okay, wait a second, Abigail. Hang on. Do it through your nose, and exhale out through your nose. Okay. All right. Do it. Okay. Do it again. All right. Take a deep breath. Let's get everything under control. And you haven't even asked any questions yet, but you're bringing stabilization to the situation. Okay? So you're going to adjust your tone of voice. You're going to adjust how you're approaching them, even over the phone. And you're going to bring about stabilization. All right? That's an individual. So now you have a family that comes in, and they sit down across from you. This is always interesting when you have a family coming in, and especially, okay, be mindful of this, guys, be mindful of this. Watch body language, okay, watch body language. So let's say that, remember couple A and B that I drew on the board, okay, both of them presenting infidelity, both of them, the male was the one that was unfaithful, all right. So the one, let's say that husband A, so what am I communicating?
Kind of prideful in a way.
Prideful? I am closing you guys off. Just try and move me.
It's like you know something. Like you know that what you know is not good.
Yeah. And I might be resistant. I got my arms crossed. So another one might come in and just sit there and just kind of just look at you with that 1,000-mile stare. You know, might not really be there or thinking other things and stuff. So watch body language, watch the eyes, and see what takes place. But what you're doing now is you got the he said, she said scenario going on, right? So when you're dealing with families, and this is still, we haven't done anything as far as distinguishing the difference between traditional, non-traditional, but when you're dealing with families, first and foremost, like I said with the stabilization for the phone call type of thing, okay, when you're dealing with families and you bring them into the counseling office, or if you have the kids in tow as well, all right? First thing that you need to do is you need, as a therapist, you need to take control. Because it could escalate and get out of control real quick and you've lost everything. And they might be finding another therapist because you are no good. They're not even in control, you know, it's this and everything else. You might even run into that anyway, even if you're in control, okay? So, take control of the situation right from the very beginning. Right from the, you haven't done anything, they come in, hey, welcome, glad you guys are here, please have a seat. Please have a seat. Do you see that? Now there'll be other seats. Please have a seat. You don't designate, let them sit down, because as they sit down, they're going to be communicating something to you as they sit down. Okay, I had to use a conference room for one session, had several sessions with this family, but I had to use a conference room because there were so many of them. We brought in two spouses of two of the family members that were married. They were part of it too. Brought in two children that were infants and stuff. And we had to have 8 chairs in the conference room. That's how many people. So I stood at the door and said, come on in guys, have a seat, fine, you know, just have a seat anywhere you want to. The wife goes all the way up to the front and sits down. The husband comes in and he's like, and goes and sits somewhere else. A lot of language being spoken there. A lot of language. Right from the very beginning, they all sit down and everything, and all of a sudden, one of the kids speaks up and says, Dad, you want to sit by Mom? He goes, no, that's all right, I'll sit over here. And that's where he sat. Throughout the whole time that I was seeing them, he never sat beside her. He never sat beside her. But what you have now is you have, what was there, 8 people in there? Myself. 9 people, not counting the kids, 8 people plus myself. So you have 8 different scenarios to this family situation. 8 different scenarios. What I did right from the very beginning was thank you guys for coming. Before we get started, let's have a word of prayer. I prayed with them. And I said, by the way, I'm going to lay out some ground rules. This is the way we're going to conduct this session. This is the way we'll conduct every session after this. The ground rules are, and I spoke to them in that tone of voice. The ground rules are, when one is speaking, everybody else is quiet. You will be given the opportunity to speak. If you interrupt, I will stop you. I will give you the opportunity to speak, but we're not going to interrupt anybody. We're not going to do name calling. We're not going to fight. We're not going to scream. We're not going to yell. We're going to conduct this as civilized adults. Is that clear? They all looked at me the way you guys are looking at me. Okay? That's how you take control. And by the way, when you lay that out, okay, they will try you, they will test you, and you will say, wait a second, hold on, they were talking, you'll get a chance, let them finish. Go ahead and finish. So you will have to enforce the ground rules that you laid out, okay? But what you're doing also in this is you're establishing a level playing field. You are in control as a therapist, and you're giving each person the opportunity to speak. Okay? Another thing about family therapy is the fact that, as I've already said, it's multiple people. With an individual, it's one. If you're getting paid for your services, dealing with one person isn't bad. If you're dealing with families, a lot of times the pay system doesn't change with a family as it does with an individual, so you're dealing with multiple people for less money. But you're dealing with a pretty complex issue and things. It's a challenge. There's a lot of things there, but it can be worth it It can be rewarding, it can be very trying and exhausting, right? But there's a lot there, okay? Just keep in mind, you as a therapist need to maintain control. You can do it in a loving way. You can do it in a way that they're not threatened by it. And as you do it in that way, they know that you're in control. And a lot of times they feel safe knowing that you're in control. Now, when you're dealing with kids in this situation, the children sometimes aren't able to have their voice heard. Sometimes they're not able to have their voice heard. Mom and dad keep it squashed down. Okay? So it might be necessary to say, okay, mom and dad, children, whatever, however many they are, okay? Each of you will get a chance and an opportunity to speak. I've already told you the ground rules, so each of you will have the opportunity to speak. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down the line. You might pick the order. You might start with the kids. So tell me in your own words what the problem is. You might even have to do this. Instead of having them all together, you might say, okay, mom and dad, I'm going to give the children an opportunity now. So I'm going to ask you guys to step out. Don't worry, you'll get to come back in. But I want to hear the kids' side from them. Okay? Fair enough? Cool. Just step outside in the lobby, help yourself to some coffee or water there and stuff. Close the door behind them. Okay, kids, it's yours. The floor's yours. Tell me about it. What's going on? What's happening? Okay, kids, you're done. I'm going to ask you guys to go out and bring mom and dad in. Now, mom and dad might say, okay, what'd they say? Type of thing. That's not what we're worried about right now. I want to hear your side now. And stuff. Okay, make sense? So there's a lot of complexities to this. There's some challenges to it, but there are some rewards to it as well. So keep in mind that as you're working with families, even though the presenting issue might be the same, there's differences. The same way with individuals. Even though you might be having the same presenting issue with two different individuals, they're still different things. Keep an open mind. Write notes. Take plenty of notes if you can, and things, and just ask questions. Here's one of the things that I've used in family therapy as well. Is I've had a piece of paper that says problem and solution, and you can see it's written down there several times. So what I do a lot of times, if I don't use this, I'll hand them a piece of paper, and I'll give them a piece of paper, and I'll have pens. And I'll say, okay, each of you have a piece of paper, each of you have a pen. So what I want you to do, okay, is I want you to put your name at the top of it, right? So you put your name at the top, and I want you to start with writing the word problem. So at the very beginning, put your name up here, write problem, okay? Now, you got problem written down, the word problem, just write problem, okay? Now, write out what you think the problem is. It's pretty fascinating, okay? So once they do it and everything, you just let them write, and you just keep an eye on them, watch them, looking at them. Always be looking to see what kind of body language is going on and stuff. Okay? Once they're done, okay? All right. So, we're just going to go through now, and we'll start with you. So, read what you wrote down as the problem. Okay, and then you just go through. All right? Now you've done that, so okay, now you've written problem, so now I want you to write the word solution. Okay, so once you've written solution, so what do you think the solution to the problem is? And you'll be surprised how that they actually don't provide a solution. They might write something out that really doesn't provide a solution to the problem. So with that, now you're looking at it and say, okay, appreciate what you wrote, but you didn't really answer with a solution. You continued by identifying with the problem. I need a solution. And you wait for them to write you're looking for this, because what you're doing in this type of exercise right here, what you're doing here, is they've identified the problem, and a lot of times it might be the real problem. It might be, a lot of times, but not always. But when they provide the solution, they're providing the way that they're going to identify, and you're going to ask them to use their solution to fix the problem.
Do you get a lot of blaming for the solution?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You get a lot of blaming in there. That's why you have to sift through it. Now you're blaming, you haven't really provided anything. You're still pointing. We're looking to try and fix. Okay, so let's try and fix. And sometimes you might get with what a lot of these have done, and especially with Bowen, I've pointed to him more. I'm more familiar with him. Okay? But what you're going to find is, in a lot of situations, when you're dealing with problems, is, let's say they come in and this is a presenting issue, okay? Whatever it might be, all right? And this is family, but what you might find is the fact that A is not really the problem. These are the problems. Okay, and sometimes it might be, let's say that you got mom and dad, and you have son and another son and a daughter. Okay, so let's say that mom and dad are having marital struggles, okay, the marital problems, but yet this son right here is experimenting with drugs. Okay? And mom and dad come in and they say, our son is getting hooked on drugs. Okay? And these two are just kind of in the background. You know, they're just kind of in the background. But let's say that this one right here is going to be the number one child, because it's a girl and she's younger. So this one's being favored over these two, but mom and dad are still having marital struggles. Okay, so this son, they come into you and they're saying, our son is, help us because our son is experimenting with drugs and we're afraid. Okay? And you start to work on this and you find that this is the identified problem, but what you end up with is finding out that mom and dad's relationship is strained. There's a problem there. There's no infidelity, but there's a problem here. Let's say that the problem in this right here has to deal with finances. Okay? Dad had to take a demotion because the company was downsizing. In order to keep his job, he took a lower cut in pay, and mom is a stay-at-home mom who was used to living off of a different income. The son sees this conflict right here and is trying to escape through different things, and drugs become a way of escape. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope I'm not presenting any type of family drama here. Okay? But the real problem is right here. This is where it's actually being played out. Now this is another problem that exists too, because this becomes the number one child. She's younger and she's the only daughter, and she's favored, And these two feel left out, which still contributes to this from him, because he feels like he's always to blame for something. Okay, so once you all of a sudden deal with this and you get the son changed, now this becomes the identified problem. And a lot of times what ends up happening in this type of scenario is this becomes uncomfortable because the identified problem now is fixed. Or should I say the scapegoat is now fixed. Now this becomes the issue, it becomes unpopular, it becomes unpleasant. Mom and dad don't like it now because everything's looking at them. And a lot of times, this becomes more of a struggle than this right here. Okay, with me so far? Makes sense? Any questions? Any thoughts? Okay. Hopefully I haven't scared you guys. No? Is it a challenge? You're looking at it, it's like, wow, there's a lot there. Okay? Seriously, really, folks, is that really just doesn't touch the tip of the iceberg type of thing. Okay? Now I would go as far as saying that within this campus, what I just drew on the board exists in some of the students' lives. Okay? Within churches, it is not as pretty as what you think. That facade of the outside really looks nice, you know, the sculptured grass and everything else, but on the inside are people that have all kinds of problems and things. Okay, so, ready to shift gears? Okay, so let's look at some other things here. Okay, I've been kind of touching on this in a little bit, so let me break it down a little bit further, okay? Not only within individuals, but also within families. You have basically 4 to 5 different key components to the individual. Let's just keep it within a family context, okay? We'll jump back and forth, but let's just look at it in a family context, okay? Within every family, there's a social type of life. Okay? There's a social type of life. It's a lifestyle that they've developed, that the parents generally have developed, that this is how the family is going to live. So it's a social type of lifestyle. Social skills are developed within a family setting as well, in a lot of ways. In the earlier years of children's growing up, the social skills are developed from mom and dad. We also find how to handle conflict within a family setting as well. So you have the social part of it. That's one component within a family. You have the environment as well. Okay? Where do you live geographically? All right, that makes a big difference. Whether you realize it or not, it makes a big difference. Anybody from the South? Besides South Korea? Nobody from the South? Most of you from the Midwest? Have you ever been to the East Coast?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to New York or Boston? You've been up there? Different way they speak, isn't it? Compared to the South, right? Okay? Let's see if I can. I have a sister-in-law that lives in upstate New York, and what I mean by upstate New York is, you know where Canada's at? Okay, she's roughly 15 miles from Canada. Okay, upstate. Not on the Buffalo side. Go north of Syracuse to the end of the United States, and you basically come to where she lives. Now, she talks like somebody from Boston. You know, Boston. Where you from? And stuff. Like, and I have a sister-in-law that lives in Virginia. Now, her accent's kind of drawn out, the southern type of twang. All right? They're both sisters, but yet different regions. So geographically, where you live geographically can have an impact on the type of family that you have been raised in. Okay? There again, think about the fact of cuisine, what you eat for food. Okay? You might have a hamburger in upstate New York, you might have a hamburger in Virginia, but there might be some differences in the way that it's prepared. Okay? And stuff. You get what I'm talking about? So geographic has an impact on the environment and where you live and how that you're raised, the way that you speak, the way that the types of friends that you have and stuff. Okay? Emotion would be a third one. Okay? Not only the emotional makeup of the family, but the emotional makeup of the individuals that consist of the family. All right? So which one of you is the outgoing type in your family? No? You're all the quiet one?
No, all of my siblings are outgoing.
Who's the third child? The middle child? Who's the oldest? You're the oldest? Who's the youngest? The youngest. Okay. All right. Did you realize that that has an emotional impact on you? Your birth order? It has an impact on you as far as your emotional makeup and stuff. Okay? For instance, how do you deal with positive and negative things? Okay? A lot of that has been taught to you to a degree. All right? Now, with the first child, help me out here, okay? If this is correct. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, okay? With the first child, a lot of times there is a little bit of babying at the beginning, but then it's like, okay, suck it up, you're tough. Get over it. And with the baby, it's like, oh, poor baby, she fell down and stuff, and things. And you're like, where's the suck it up part? Okay? Big impact on your emotional development. Okay? Cognitive would be the fourth part of it, okay? Cognitive. Your thought life. Okay? How do you deal with your automatic thoughts? Okay? Now, I have a couple of things here, and I will print these off if you want them. You can find them online too. But Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis developed thinking distortions, and he had 11 of them. And Albert Ellis developed 11 irrational thoughts or irrational beliefs. Okay? These play a big part in who we are in a lot of ways, in our cognitive ability to deal with things, problems, situations, and stuff of that nature. Okay, so your automatic thoughts, okay? For instance, all or nothing thinking. Or you might even be labeling yourself. Labeling or mislabeling, okay? The idea that human unhappiness is externally caused and that people have little or no ability to control their sorrows or disturbances. Interesting things when you look at these right here and the fact of how we think, our cognitive ability, our reasoning. Why do we do certain things the way that we do? A lot of this is developed and nurtured sometimes in our family upbringing. I probably should push pause to say this, but I'll say it anyway, because I don't think any of my family is going to watch this. I had a grandmother that was pessimistic. I mean, it was a beautiful day outside, but she would find something negative to say about it. She was a very religious person. If it really, in my life, and I've said this to my grandparents, in my life, I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for my grandmothers. My dad's mom took, when he was able to drive, she looked at him, and he was the third child, and she said, "You're taking me to church." And he drove grandma to church. My mom's mom was faithful in church all the time and things, which, of course, had a big influence on my parents, which had an influence on me. So I thank God for my grandmothers, but they were not perfect. My mom's mom was very pessimistic, very pessimistic. My dad's mom was very quiet, very, very quiet. But my mom's mom, not only pessimistic, but was a busybody. You wanted to know something in town? Ask Grandma. Okay? I have a mother, and I love my mother, who is becoming more like her mom. And it's like, Mom, the world is not coming into an end yet. And even if it does, God's going to take you away. But she's starting to develop this pessimistic attitude. Okay? I have two sisters that are older than me. And they'll call me, Mike, the world's falling apart. I'm like, what's the problem? You know, and they'll start developing this pessimistic attitude. See, on a genogram, I can trace that through that. But you see what I'm saying as far as our upbringing, our parental figures, how that they can influence us and everything and stuff and have a big impact on us. So they can develop the way that we think about things. They can have a tremendous impact on our thought life. Okay? And then the fifth one is physical. Okay? Each of you, myself included, each of you have the ability to do certain things physically. Right? You have that. There's also within you a desire to do certain things that you want to do physically, which, I don't know, anybody in your family basketball? Just you?
My grandparents probably, but my siblings,
No?
no way.
So you basically have blazed a trail on your own in basketball. Okay? Where did that come from? Your grandparents, naturally, but how did it start to grow and how did it start to nurture and develop?
Me and my grandpa would watch like basketball. Like he would go out and play basketball with me and stuff. And that's
Cool.
kind of how like that developed.
Awesome. So he had a major impact on you. That's cool. That's cool. Anybody else? Physically? No? Do you guys like, apart from you, okay, you're excused from this question, anybody like to run? Ooh, that's a nasty word. You don't even like to run.
I don't like to run.
But you have to.
Yes.
It's a sport that requires running. Weightlifting. Walking. Any type of yoga. No?
I mean, I do that all on my own, but none of my family does it. They all think I'm weird.
Okay. All right. Well, here's a word of advice from a older individual. Stay active. Okay? Stay active. Do something to maintain some type of physical activity. And you will find mental health from physical activity. So anytime you get the opportunity, stay active. Okay? You guys want to take a break? Or just keep going?
I could use a drink of water real quick.
Okay.